Okay, I want to say a good morning to everyone joining us. We've just gone live now on YouTube, Facebook, and through Zoom as well. So we are going to let people kind of jump in as they come online, because I know sometimes it does take a little while for the Zoom list to update itself. And why that's doing, I'm going to just introduce everyone to Bethana. Hamed bin Bethana been working for a few years now to actually, get make more students aware of the offering at St. George's University in Grenada, and that's obviously where the university is based. But as Bethana will talk about, there are other opportunities for students, especially if you were thinking about coming to study in the United Kingdom. While people are kind of logging in, one thing I always want to say is I had the fortunate opportunity to actually visit the Northumbria campus just a few weeks ago. I did get there quite late because I was overseas at the time, and then I flew back in straight into the Northumbria campus. So it was a tiring couple of days, but a fantastic few days to meet the team there. I did get the chance to meet Dr. Coey, who should have joined us today, but he now can't join us because of a family emergency. So hopefully we'll have him online for a webinar a bit closer to clearing, A-level clearing later on in the year. Coincidentally, my colleague Jill, who's not obviously in this webinar, she had the even better opportunity to visit the main campus in Grenada, actually. So she actually was able to see the facilities out in the Caribbean. She stayed out there for quite some time and has been talking a lot to me about the opportunities at the main campus. So really, SGU is a unique opportunity, which Bethana will no doubt talk about, because we have the opportunities to study in the UK, as well as in the Caribbean, or combine them, as well as clinical opportunities across the UK and also USA as well. Okay, Bethana, what I'll do, I think you've got a presentation for people today, haven't you?
Yes, correct.
Fantastic. So in a short while, Bethana's going to share her screen, and I'm just going to kind of go and monitor what's going on over on YouTube and Facebook to actually see if people have got any questions there. The Q&A feature is active today, guys. For those of you signed into Zoom, you can type into the Q&A feature. Alternatively, if you're looking at this stream through Facebook or YouTube, you can actually then log in there and let me know if you've got any queries, and I can then read them out to everyone. Okay, so Bethana, I'm going to hand it over to you if that's okay.
Thank you very much, Ben. Thank you very much for the lovely webinar that you've arranged today. As Ben said, we work very closely together. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share two presentations with you today. And the first one is going to cover some of the questions that you may have when thinking about a career in medicine. And we're going to cover some of SGU's competitive advantages and talk about why St. George's University is the right place for you to study medicine. During which, obviously, as Ben has mentioned, we will cover, some really important information, not only about our main campus in Grenada, the Caribbean, but also talk about the opportunities that are available for you here in the UK. And then I will then move on to a second presentation where we'll slightly talk about the UK pathway to gain a bit of an understanding as to what comes next after completion of a medical program. So again, thank you very much, Ben, and I will just go ahead and share my screen, everyone. Okay, so thank you very much for everyone who is joining us today and taking time out of what I know is a very, very busy time during of the year. My name is Bethana Hamed, as Ben said, and we work very closely together. Medical Doorway are one of our strongest representatives and one of our closest partners. And I am the Associate Director at St. George's University School of Medicine. I myself am actually based in London, UK, as I look after our student recruitment from Europe. So St. George's University was actually founded 45 years ago, and over the last 45 years, we've acquired just over 19,000 alumni from our School of Medicine. And this image right here in front of you is our main campus, which our colleague Jill visited a few weeks ago. And this is our True Blue campus in Grenada, the Caribbean. And we're all here today because we're all thinking about a future career in medicine. So what I'm going to do in this presentation is to answer some of the questions that I'm sure many of you will have already thought of. As Ben has mentioned, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to put them in the Q&A. We will have a Q&A session at the end of today's presentations. If your questions aren't answered throughout the presentation, there will be enough time to answer all of your questions. So I'm only going to cover some of the top 10 questions that I think you'll definitely will have thought of. And one of the main competitive advantages of joining St. George's University School of Medicine is for students who are actually looking at a future career in practicing medicine abroad. So we have two very strong pathways, and those are the US pathway and the UK pathway. And in this presentation, I'm going to talk about the US pathway, and in the next presentation, I will be talking about the UK pathway. So for those of you who are considering a career in medicine in the United States, one of the top questions you're going to have is, will I get a US residency? And the reason for that is, in order for you to become a licensed physician in the United States, you need to meet two criteria. And one of those criteria is to complete a US residency in the United States. And while it is extremely competitive to obtain a US residency in the United States, for us, 88% is actually the residency placement rate at time of graduation for eligible international graduates who have applied for US residencies. And this statistic is over the last 3 years. And what's important to note is St. George's University is actually the #1 provider into first-year US residencies, and we have been for the last 12 years combined. So what that means is there isn't a medical school in the world, whether that be a US medical school or an international medical school, that places the same number of international graduates upon graduation onto US residency placements. So a really, really strong competitive advantage when it comes to joining St. George's University School of Medicine, as there is no other medical school in the world that provides more new doctors into the US medical healthcare system. So we're actually the largest source of physicians for the entire US workforce. So out of our 19,000 alumni, 11,627 of them are currently licensed in the United States. And the remaining students are licensed and practicing physicians in over 50 countries around the world, including the UK, Canada, and others. And this doesn't really happen by chance. Obviously, a lot of work goes into place being able to successfully obtain a US residency. And that is obviously from our students themselves and also from the level of support that is offered at SGU. What we offer is a very personalized and support and guidance system, and that is throughout your education within St. George's University School of Medicine, and that comes in a number of different forms. One of those is through the Office of Career Guidance and Student Development, as that office in particular work with you to make sure that you develop a personalized residency strategy. So we've got advisors who've got 45 years of experience who will work with you from the get-go to develop a personalized strategy just for you when it comes to applying to residency. And what they do is they make sure that you understand what previous SGU students have done to successfully obtain a US residency. In particular, students who have got a very similar profile to yourself. So students who've got a very similar academic background, got similar experiences, and have got similar overall profiles in terms of strengths. And that is really, really important because it ensures that you are applying to residencies that you highly qualify for and that you are a best match for. And that's really part of the success that we've had with US residency placements, with us being the #1 provider into US residency placements. Now, the other question that will come into place is, will SGU's clinical network help me obtain a residency? So as you are all aware, as part of your medical studies, you will be doing clinical rotations. And we actually have a network of 75 plus hospitals, and those hospitals are in the US and in the UK. In the US, our hospitals are across 12 different states, as you can see, including California, Florida, Los Angeles, New York, New Jersey, Ohio, and others. And in the UK, our clinical network is across 8 different locations. The vast majority of our hospitals are in the south of England, but we also have some hospitals in London and the Greater London area. Within each of those hospitals, what we have is basically a director of medical education, a clerkship director, clinical faculty, and medical educational coordinators. So within our network of 75 plus hospitals, we actually have 1,500 SGU clinical faculty within those hospitals. So the level of support and guidance that you are offered is a very personalized level, and that is not only within your studies on campus, but also throughout your clinical training at our clinical network. At the same time, you'll still have the support within the hospital itself, where we have our Dean of Medicine, our Dean of Clinical Training, our Associate Deans, our department chairs, our placement and clinical coordinators, and, as we mentioned, our Office of Career Guidance and Student Development. That leads me on to the third question, which, if you recall at the beginning of the presentation, I said that for those of you who are interested in a future career in medicine in the United States, to become a practicing physician in the US, you have to meet two criteria. The first one, which we've already covered, is actually completing a US residency in the US. And the second is for you to pass your USMLE. And this is because in this presentation, we're talking about the US pathway. And as I said, in the next presentation today, we'll be talking about the UK pathway. So for the US pathway, the exam is the USMLE, and that is the United States Medical Licensing Exam. And the USMLE comes in 3 steps. So you will take USMLE step 1 after your basic sciences. You will take USMLE step 2 during your clinical rotations, and you will take USMLE step 3 during your residency placements. We have exceptional results, so outstanding results when it comes to USMLE. So as you can see, SGU students from 30 countries had a 94% first-time pass rate on the USMLE Step 1, for example, in 2020, and that is on par with US medical schools based in the US. What I'm going to do is give you a brief on the program itself. At St. George's, we offer an MD degree, which is a medical doctor degree. And the differentiating factor is it is a postgraduate course of study, and it is a US-style curriculum. So if you look at North American medical schools, they all offer MD degrees. And the program itself comes at a number of different entry level, and the entry levels depend on your academic background. So we have a 4-year MD degree, a 5-year MD degree, a 6, and a 7-year MD degree. And for many of you joining us today, you would be eligible to apply to the 5-year MD degree. The 5-year MD degree is for students who will have completed 3 full A levels, or for students who will have completed a full IB diploma. And then the 4-year MD degree, if we have any students who are joining us today, are for students who will have completed a Bachelor's of Science in Biomedical Sciences or any related field. For today's purposes, I'll be focusing on the 5-year MD degree, and I'll talk to you about the program now so you can have a clearer understanding of the US and the UK pathway. So for the 5-year MD degree, as you can see that there are a number of flags represented below each year. And what the 5-year MD degree includes is 1 year of preclinical sciences, and you can complete this year either on our main campus in Grenada, the Caribbean, or at our partner university here in the UK, which is Northumbria University in the city of Newcastle, or at our partner university in India, which is Ramaya University in the city of Bangalore. You then move on to 2 years of basic sciences, and you can see for the first year of basic sciences, you can complete this year either on our main campus in Grenada or at our partner university here in the UK, which is Northumbria University. When you move on to your second year of basic sciences, you can see there's only 1 flag represented. And what that means is it is mandatory for you to complete this year on our main campus in Grenada. And the reason we've made one of the years mandatory is ultimately you are going to graduate with an MD degree from St. George's University School of Medicine, and it is a purpose-built state-of-the-art facility. So it's really important for us, for our students, to actually be part of our main campus as part of their SGU experience. And it gives you a huge competitive advantage as well, in the sense that it actually adds to your overall experience throughout your medical studies. So you're being subjected to a new medical healthcare system, which is the Grenadian medical healthcare system as well. And it's once you complete your basic sciences that you will actually take the United States Medical Licensing Exam Step 1 before you move on to your last 2 years, and the last 2 years are clinical rotations. And what that means is you're still a student, you're still learning, but instead of learning on campus in lectures, laboratories, or small group settings, you are actually learning through clinical training at our affiliated hospitals. So the network of 75 plus hospitals that we have mentioned in the US or in the UK. So you have the choice to complete 2 years, both of the years in the US, both of the years in the UK, or to actually complete one of them in the US and one of them in the UK. And again, this is a huge competitive advantage for SGU, because ultimately what you could be looking at is actually being subjected to 3 different medical healthcare systems before you've even graduated your MD degree. And if you are interested in the UK in particular, what that would mean potentially is you could do, potentially you could be looking at doing 4 out of the 5 years in the UK, whereas you could do the first 2 years at Northumbria University, the 3rd year on our main campus, and then the last 2 years, if you wish to do so, can be completed at our clinical networks in the UK. This obviously would be subject to a few factors that we can talk about later on. Within the clinical networks, for the first year, you would do 42 weeks of core rotations. So that's where you will be subjected to core specialities. So for example, it would be internal medicine, surgery, pediatrics, OBGYN, and psychiatry. And then for your final year, you would do 38 weeks. And those 38 weeks would cover emergency medicine, a sub-internship, and 26 weeks of electives. And as we said, the final 2 years are completed at our clinical network of hospitals, and they are overseen by our clinical faculty. So what's important to note in terms of the locations is, regardless of the location, the quality of education is exactly the same, because ultimately you are an SGU student studying an SGU curriculum taught by SGU faculty, leading to the same SGU outcomes. But as I said, the biggest competitive advantage is, 1, you get to be subjected to a number of different medical healthcare systems before you've even graduated. And 2, it gives you a cross-cultural experience. It gives you an opportunity to really grow not only your personal, but also your professional network throughout your medical studies. And that is when you would graduate with an MD degree, which is a medical doctor degree from St. George's University School of Medicine, before moving on to either the US pathway, which we are talking about in this presentation, or the UK pathway, which we will be talking about in our next presentation, or it can be a return pathway, which basically means the pathway for you to return back to your home country to practice medicine there. So just a bit of a recap in terms of locations. Our main campus is Grenada, the Caribbean. Our partner university in the UK is Northumbria University in the city of Newcastle. And our partner university in India is Ramaya University in the city of Bangalore. And our clinical network of hospitals are in the US and in the US and in the UK. So a really, really great opportunity, as we said, to have a very cross-cultural education. That leads me on to the 4th question, which is, how will I be supported to succeed in my medical education? And this is a really important question, because we all know what a huge investment medicine is, and that is in terms of time and effort, and also a huge financial investment. So it's important to make sure that the medical school that you do eventually choose is the right medical school for you. This is going to be the most important decision you make, and we're here to support you make the right choice. So in terms of the support, SGU offers a very personalized support and guidance system. In fact, 75% of our classes and labs are offered in a ratio of 8:1. So for every 8 students, there's 1 faculty member. And that's a very personalized approach when it comes to studying medicine. And that is really crucial, because that ensures that you have a higher success rate, because each and every faculty member within SGU are in place to ensure that you are achieving your fullest potential. Another support system that is offered within St. George's University School of Medicine is that we allocate our students to one of our 9 colleges within our School of Medicine. Every year, we welcome just over 1,000 students. It's important to note that just around 75% of our cohort come in through North America. So that is US and Canadian nationals and also international students in North America. And then about 25% of our cohort come in from the rest of the world. We're a very diverse community. This year, for example, we actually have 103 different nationalities. And the reason you're allocated to one of our 9 colleges, it's because we want to make sure that you are part of a smaller community. And that is to make sure that you are still being offered that personalized guidance and support system. So instead of being 1 out of 1,000, you become 1 out of 120, for example. And each and every one of those colleges are their own learning community. So they have their own dean, their own associate deans, their own faculty, their own advisors. And they are all there to support you achieve your fullest potential. And each of those colleges, as we said, are their own learning community. And that's where the small group learning takes place. That's where the focus is on your student wellness and support and on your personal and professional development. So a very dedicated support system that focuses really on your success. So it's an academic program, as we said, in a state-of-the-art facility that really helps prepare you not only for SGU exams, USMLE, residency, and beyond. So because we focus on our students' overall future medical careers. This gives you a little bit of an outcome on our faculty themselves. So as you can see, we have around 2,000 faculty members. As I said, around 1,500 of them are within our clinical network, and around 500 of them are on campus. Another department that is in place to support you is our Department of Educational Services. And the Department of Educational Services basically has 45 MDs or PhDs. And what they do is on a weekly basis, they deliver 450 seminars. And those seminars really focus on skill development. And this is really crucial because it is really crucial to your success. What we do as well is we offer a learning assessment. And what that means is many of us don't really know how we learn best. And that's because obviously we all have our different strengths, our different learning preferences. And this assessment really helps you understand how you learn best. And that is to make sure that you are achieving your fullest potential. And there's a lot of emphasis on skill development overall. So there are obviously emphasis on things such as time management skills, study skills, test taking skills, and others. And in addition to that, there are a number of different initiatives that are available to support you as you join the program, including the mentor initiative. And this is crucial because what it means is a peer, one of your peers in obviously a previous year would be able to mentor you as you join the program to ensure that it is a smooth transition and that you are reaching your full potential when it comes to your outcomes. The fifth question that many of you may have is, where will my SGU medical degree allow me to practice medicine? As we said today, we have just over 19,000 alumni from our School of Medicine, and 11,627 of them are licensed in the US, and the remaining are licensed and practicing physicians in over 50 countries around the world. So SGU is a fully accredited university, and we are recognized by many countries around the world. Another question that we do get is, what will my life be like at SGU? So if you recall, when we went over the program itself, your life at SGU will mean that you are being subjected to a number of different environments. So if you're studying on our main campus, obviously you get to experience Grenada, you get to experience our main campus. If you're studying at our partner university here in the UK, which is Northumbria University, it's a completely different student experience. And then when it comes to your clinical rotations, they are between the US and the UK. If we talk about our main campus in particular, our True Blue campus in Grenada, the Caribbean, it is a state-of-the-art facility. It is a purpose-built campus. It has 65 buildings on premises, including our student accommodation. We have also a gym on premises, outdoor recreation activities, our own private beach, a number of different outlets and restaurants. And in addition to that, we also have a shuttle bus that runs from 7 a.m. until 2 a.m. and that is within campus and within a 5-mile radius of campus. As a student, obviously, we encourage our students to make sure that they are developing personally as well. So there are different clubs that students can join on campus. There are 65 different clubs. Many of them are professional. However, obviously, there are others that are spiritual, cultural, athletic, ones related to student government and others. So it really gives you the opportunity to be part of a community and to really grow your personal skills as well. We have a number of different sports that are available on campus. So we've got students obviously playing basketball, football, cricket. In addition to that, we have yoga sessions, students running marathons, a lot of different art initiatives, and we also have a gym on campus. And a fun fact is 80% of our students are scuba certified by the time they graduate from SGU, and that is because Grenada is one of the top 5 diving destinations in the world, and it was actually the #1 diving destination in the Caribbean last year. And for many of us, obviously, who are not quite familiar with Grenada, the Caribbean, one of the questions that you may have is, can I actually see where I will be studying? And the answer is yes. There are a lot of different virtual tours that are available to students online and throughout our social media platforms. However, we also run an initiative which is called the SGU Initiative. And what the SGU Initiative means is that we encourage students who have been offered a place at SGU to actually fly over to the island, to visit the campus, to sit in lectures, to meet faculty, to meet with current students, to really get an understanding of what St. George's University School of Medicine has to offer them, and to reinforce what we know is that SGU is the right place for them to study. And as part of this initiative, we actually reimburse the cost of travel to students who actually end up joining St. George's University School of Medicine. The 8th question that we definitely have a lot of students asking is, are there any financial aid? So the simple question is yes. 75% of our international students are on some form of scholarship. So there are a number of different scholarships that are available to you at St. George's University School of Medicine. Ben from Medical Doorway obviously is there to support you throughout your application process. And as part of that, to support you with the scholarship consideration. So the way it works, and this is going to be the next question, obviously, which I would lead to, is how can we apply? You can apply through Medical Doorway, and Ben will talk to you more about that at the end of today's presentations. But once you actually apply through Medical Doorway and offer them your supporting documents, what will happen is you will be placed under initial review. And what that means is our faculty committee will review your application to make a decision as to whether or not you are granted an interview. So if you are successful, you're granted a virtual interview with an SGU alumni. And then after that, you go into final review with the faculty committee for a final decision as to whether or not you are accepted onto the program. So if all goes well and you are accepted onto the program, it's at that point that you can be considered for a scholarship. There is no additional application that needs to be made. There is just one document that Medical Doorway and myself will be able to support you with, and that is a confidential financial statement. It's a 2-page document that basically allows our scholarship community to understand, our scholarship committee to understand your financial need, as it is a listing of your income versus assets versus expenses. And then scholarships are awarded based on merit and financial need. So the scholarship committee will assess and they will make a decision as to whether or not you are awarded a scholarship. As we said, scholarships are not guaranteed. However, 75% of our international cohort are in some form of scholarship. So we definitely try and support our students where possible. But it's important to understand that scholarships are partial scholarships and do not cover the full program. We've covered question number 9, which is how do I apply? And the last question that I'm going to talk to you about today before I move on to the next session, which is the UK pathway, is why is St. George's University the place to start my medical career? And this is a really important question because this allows us to recap some of the sections that we have already covered today. So I'll start with the first one, which is the fact that St. George's University is actually a state-of-the-art teaching facility. It also offers state-of-the-art accommodation facilities, and it gives you exceptional student life opportunities. So a really, really outstanding student experience. And that is not only within our main campus in Grenada, but also at our partner university here in the UK, which is Northumbria University. The second thing that's really important as well is the fact that we offer the small class experience with the benefits of a larger school. So as you recall, 75% of your classes and lab work are actually offered at a ratio of 8:1. But at the same time, you get the benefits of a larger school, and that's really through the facilities and the faculty themselves. It's also in terms of the quality of the curriculum, the academic support, all of which lead to outstanding USMLE results. In addition to that, our exceptional US residency placements, given the fact that we are the #1 provider into first-year US residencies, and we have been for the last 12 years combined, both of them leading to the fact that we are actually the largest source of physicians for the entire US workforce. And finally, it's the fact that we have an exceptional clinical network with 75+ leading US and UK hospitals. I'll leave you with the slide as well, and then a testimonial before we might take some questions and then move on to the UK pathway, or talk about the UK pathway, then move on to questions. I'll leave it to Ben to decide on that. But these are some of the You can see SGU graduates have practiced at all US News and World Report's top US hospitals. So these are some of the top hospitals in the US where our graduates are practicing. And then obviously, if you decide to join St. George's University School of Medicine, you are joining a very strong alumni network of practicing physicians in all 50 states in the United States and in over 50 countries around the world in all specialities who have successful careers. And I'll leave you with a testimonial from one of our students here in the UK. And Ben, I will move on to you. Would you like us to do a quick Q&A session now before we move on to the UK pathway?
I think we've got one question in here, so I think we can look at that question first. It's a fairly simple one. So if anyone else has got any questions, I did put something into the chat feature, guys, so do feel free to ask your questions now before we move on to the specific of the UK pathway. Someone did say, to be eligible for the 4-year program, must you have completed your entire BSc, or can 1 to 2 years BSc suffice? No, it's a US style pathway, just like a graduate entry program in the UK. So you do need to have graduated with your BSc to a certain level, and then progress through the interview and selection procedures that SGU has for entry to the standard MD program. So yeah, you do have to have graduated fully with your degree. Okay, that's the only question outstanding at the moment. Okay, what I'll do is, someone's asked about the application procedure slide. We can talk about that, I think, at the end, if that's okay, once we've done the UK pathway. Yeah, is that okay? Because I can show you how to apply through the Medical Doorway website. All right.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Ben. I will talk for about 10 to 15 minutes about the UK pathway, and then we'll take any questions there as well. So as we recall from the presentation that we just concluded, the program itself is an MD degree. And the MD degree, as we mentioned, for those of you who might have not been there at the beginning of the presentation, basically the MD degree is offered at a number of different entry levels. So as Ben mentioned, we have the 4-year MD degree as a postgraduate entry. We have the 5-year MD degree for those of you who are currently completing their A-levels and their full IB diploma. And we spoke about the fact that you could potentially, for the 5-year MD degree, do the first 2 years at Northumbria University, move on to do the 3rd year on our main campus in Grenada, before finishing the final 2 years, which are clinical rotations, and you could do those at our clinical network, either in the US or in the UK, or a combination of both. And as we said, once you actually graduate, you graduate with an MD degree, a medical doctor degree from St. George's University School of Medicine. You then move on to one of 3 different pathways, the US pathway, which we have just covered, and then the UK pathway, which we will be covering in this presentation. And the 3rd pathway is a return pathway. And what that means, it is the pathway for you to go back to your home country to practice medicine there. So what does the UK pathway means? The UK pathway means it is the route to becoming a licensed and practicing physician in the United Kingdom. And what that means for you, as we said, is you would complete, for the 5-year MD degree, you would complete your preclinical, 2 years of basic sciences, followed by 2 years of clinical rotations, and then that would lead to graduation. Once you graduate, what the UK pathway actually includes is, first of all, registration for your PLAB exam, and we will cover what that means in the next few slides, before you move on to apply to the UK Foundation Programme. Then we move on to completing, which is your Foundation Year 1, and then for you to obtain your full GMC registration before you enter your speciality. The same applies if you are on the 4-year MD degree. However, as we know, the 4-year MD degree includes 2 years of basic sciences, followed by 2 years of clinical rotations, leading to your graduation. Again, once you graduate, it's about registering for your PLAB, applying for your UK Foundation Programme, completion of your FY1 to obtain your full GMC registration before you enter your speciality. So for those of you who are not familiar and may be asking this question, what is the Foundation Programme? So the Foundation Programme comes after graduation, and it consists of 2 years. Those are FY1 and FY2. Each of those years consists of 3 4-month-long rotations in different specialities. And I've included some useful links for you in today's presentation that allow you to go onto those main websites to learn more about the offering. This is a listing of the map of the foundation schools here in the UK for you to gain an understanding of how the map works, in terms of the fact that there are 20 foundation schools, 15 academic units of applications. And what does that mean for you as a student? What it means is, once you actually complete your MD degree, you will be looking at your provisional GMC registration before you can start your FY1, which is Foundation Year 1. Then, upon completion, you would move to a full GMC registration before you move on to FY2, which is your Foundation Year 2. And upon completion of your Foundation Year 2, you would move on to either becoming a GP, a general practitioner here in the UK, or a consultant. To become a GP, you would be looking at 3 years of NHS training, and to become a consultant, you would be looking at 5 to 8 years of NHS training. And prior to you actually being able to start your foundation program, there are a number of different exams that are important for you to understand. So, and they are required exams. So you've got your PLAB 1, your PLAB 2, you've got your SJT and your PSA. And what did each of those exams mean? They are different exams that are offered. So the PLAB, for example, is the Professional and Linguistic Assessment Board. As you know, this will be replaced by the USMLE as of next year. For example, PLAB 1 is actually a written exam. And for those of you who are looking at the US pathway, it's actually quite similar to the USMLE Step 2 clinical knowledge. And then you've got the PLAB 2, which is the Professional and Linguistic Assessment Board again, but this is slightly different. This is more about actually running through 20 different stations with 8 minutes per stations. And this is actually quite similar to USMLE Step 2 clinical skills. So the emphasis really is on the clinical skill knowledge. And the third exam is the situational judgment exam. And this exam is an ethics type exam. And as you can see, for example, it's 70 questions in 2 hours, 20 minutes. Again, I've included some links that you can always refer to learn more about the exams and the requirements for each. And then the final exam we're talking about is the PSA, and the PSA is the Prescribing Safety Assessment. And this is really important, obviously, when it comes to prescriptions. So this is a prescription exam, and again, it's a written exam with 60 questions in 2 hours. That's an overview of the required exams when it comes to applying for your foundation year. Now, in terms of a timeline, what does that mean for the UK pathway? When you are applying for the UK pathway with SGU, what's important to understand is that you will be required to complete the program. So complete the 5-year MD degree if you're coming from A-levels or IB diploma, or complete the 4-year MD degree if you are coming with a BSc. Upon completion, you would graduate with an MD degree, which is a medical doctor degree from St. George's University School of Medicine. And it is at that point that you would actually register for your exams, and you would sit your exams, and you would wait to complete those exams before you apply for your FY1 and start your FY1. And what that means is you are looking at a gap period of, on average, it's the 12-month gap period for students who are graduating in May, June. And what that means is there would be a gap of 12 months between graduation and the start of FY1. Depending on your graduation date, it may go up to 18 months if you are a January intake student. So some important steps to understand are some of the accounts that are required when it comes to the UK Foundation program. There are 3 different accounts that are required, and each of those exams, each of those accounts are listed here. So you've got the Oriel account, which basically is for eligibility. And in terms of the applying dates, you can see it's June to August, and then the form is September to October. And then you've got the GMC registration, and that's to apply for your PLAB exams. As we said, you've got your PLAB 1 and your PLAB 2. And through that, you will also be applying for your provisional registration. And then you've got the educational certification, and that is required to verify your medical degree for the GMC. That's a general overview of the different accounts that are required for your UK pathway to ensure that you are taking the required exams, getting the provisional full GMC requirements, and going through your FY years, and then going on to your NHS training to become licensed and practicing physicians here in the UK, either as general practitioners or as consultants. I won't go over the visa section. We will leave that for another session where we can cover that in further detail. But that's everything that I wanted to cover for the UK pathway. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them into the Q&A box, and myself and my colleague Ben will be able to get back to you. Thank you.
Lovely. Thanks for that, Bethana. And obviously, you know, things are changing with the introduction of the medical licensing assessment as well. I think SGU is uniquely placed, being based in both, obviously, you know, the US market and the UK, to be able to support students kind of through that whole procedure, as it has supported students through PLAB in the past as well. So there are a few questions. Please, guys, please, you know, do pop your questions in. We're not going to reveal your identity when we ask the questions, so don't worry. And the reason we're going to read the questions out is specifically because this is going live on YouTube and Facebook, and the recording is available on those pathways, on those media as well. So people who are looking at this perhaps later on in the day, because I know a few students taking A-levels today, exams today, couldn't make this session. And it's great to have their family looking at that, because I noticed that in the attendance. So application procedure, we'll talk about that in a moment. It's very simple, actually. Acceptance rate, we'll deal with that question first. What's the acceptance rate? We pre-screen your applications. So basically, when an application comes in, I will determine if you're eligible for that program. And if you are eligible, then we'll build the application with you. It's not a quick process, especially at the moment. There's a few changes happening at the SGU database level, but we'll get those applications built, get your references in, all of those things, and then pop that through. Then you will progress to interview. Now, we're not going to complete the full application until we know that you're eligible to progress to the interview. And it's at that point then that you will then have the interview. And what I'd have to say is previous years, last year especially, because of how closely we assess your application, I think 100% of our students who progressed to the interview received either a conditional, if they were still in school, or unconditional offer for the program of their choice. We will talk a bit more about accommodation in a moment, but let's take a look at some of those other questions. It says, what's the minimum age requirement for the UK pathway? Do you have to be 18 during the start of the medicine course? Bethany, I think, do you want to kind of come on to that one?
Yes. We have students who join us who turn 18 during term 1. So you don't actually have to be exactly 18 to join the program. And as we said, we've actually had students who've joined us who are quite younger, but they would go through the Grenada campus rather than the UK campus.
Yeah. How much is the cost per year? People ask this. Unfortunately, the way that the universities that are more aligned to the US system don't have a kind of annual cost, because the cost will vary depending on, it will depend on if you're taking the first year in Northumbria or in the Caribbean, and the cost will differ there. It also then varies depending on the type of scholarship that you get. Last year, the lowest scholarship we got for those students that were eligible for scholarships was a $50,000 scholarship. The highest one we got was $90,000. So that can obviously have a significant impact on how much it would cost per year. I do think we tend to average it out, don't we, Bethana? I think we averaged out, I think something for the 5-year pathway, I think we figured out it was something like, including accommodation, was about $460,000 for the total without the scholarship, however.
Correct. Yeah, it's a close estimate to that.
Yeah.
It's important to understand, as Ben said, that when you think about the fees, it's important not to think of a fee as a whole. It's important to think of it, obviously, when it comes to your financial planning, but it's important to note that fees are expected to be paid on a termly basis. So, you know, when we do have meetings for students who apply and who move on to be offered, you know, we definitely have meetings with students and their parents to make sure that they understand what the financial plans are moving forward. And as Ben said, we really do try and support our students where possible in terms of scholarship allocation. All scholarships are partial. However, you could be looking at a reduction of anything from like $5,000 to $10,000 per term. So it's, you know, we definitely encourage you to set up a meeting with Medical Doorway or with myself, and then we could both do the meeting together. And we can really talk about your specific circumstances and to really walk you through the fee structure.
Yeah, it's important that we do that. And obviously then the scholarship that's coming is aggregated across the course as well. So that can have quite a significant impact in reducing the fee level. I know it's just typical because in the UK and Europe, we just have a set fee per year, which obviously is something which is not typical in other parts of the world as well. Okay. Thank you for the session. I have a question regarding the UK pathway. Is it longer for students graduating with an MD certificate versus the MB science? Actually, no. What it is, I think I'll answer that question quickly, Bethana, and then if you want to add anything onto that, let me know. As when Bethana pulled the slide up of the four of the pathways, the standard medical degree is the 4-year MD, the US program. Then what the university has then done is, depending on whether you're coming in, say, with IB, A levels, and depending on the subjects, you will have potentially a year before that or a year before that, depending on what you're coming in with. So you will either have a 6-year pathway, a 5-year pathway, or if you're a graduate, the 4-year pathway. In effect, the year before that, or the first 2 years before that, are to get you onto that MD program, the 4-year program. So if you're coming from an IB with biology and chemistry and other STEMs at the standard level and the 2 at the higher level, or you're coming with 3 A levels, which are STEM subjects, then you're going to be doing an MD at SGU the same as you would a 5-year pathway in the United Kingdom. Okay, so there would be no difference in terms of length of time. Where it can be different in terms of length of time is if your subjects don't necessarily line up effectively. So if you're not taking what we would consider generally three STEM subjects, or you're not taking 3 STEM subjects with. We have had some students who progressed into the 5-year pathway whose 3rd A level wasn't a STEM, but it was an A star. So we had people who had, like, A star, AA, of which 2 of the subjects were STEM. But if you were taking, say, 2 STEM subjects and 1 humanities subject, and you were averaging B grades, then you're more likely to be looking at a 6-year pathway rather than a 5-year pathway. That is simply to ensure that you are not being set up to fail, because what matters is not how fast you go through the program. What matters is graduating as a doctor at the end of either a 5, 4, or a 6-year pathway and having that career. That's what's important, really, in the end of the day. So if you're coming with the 3 STEM subjects or 3 fantastic A levels, then yeah, your time will be no different than perhaps if you studied at an MBBS type program. I think would you say that's the case, Bethany? Yes?
Yes, I agree. 100%.
Are there a minimum number of IGCSEs or GCSEs that need to be taken? We will need to see your GCSEs. We will need to send them with your application. But usually, Bethany, there's no specific requirements on the minimum number. It's looking at the grades and the subjects.
Correct. We look at the grades and the subjects. We say it's important to understand that we are recruiting students globally, and the GCSE requirements may differ depending on the school that students are in across the world. So sometimes offering are quite different in different regions. So we do say a minimum of 6 GCSEs, but there aren't students here in the UK who are not doing 8+. So we've never had an issue with any of the students who have come through Medical Doorway, even from all around the world, with GCSEs. GCSEs will be taken into account in terms of subjects and results, but ultimately what the faculty committee will also be looking at academically is obviously your predicted A levels. Yeah.
Okay. Right. There's no more questions at the moment in the Q&A, and there's nothing there on YouTube at the moment. I've just checked Facebook as well, and we haven't got any more queries there. So what I would say is, any other queries at all? Someone did ask about the accommodation options. Now, colleague Jill has actually seen the accommodation there, was extremely impressed with it. And I think you can actually see the accommodation in the picture behind Bethany. So you can actually head down to the beach from the accommodation, which is perhaps not something you could do in most UK campus universities. Some you can. Someone says here, if I've studies the first 2 years, would I be able to get into a 4 or 5 year program? I'm a bit confused what your question relates to. If you're talking about studied 2 years of a BSc, then no, you wouldn't be able to go into the 4-year program. You'd have to, graduate and then go for the 4-year program. What I would say, however, is if you're partway through a degree and you're thinking about going on to medicine, so if you're 2 years into a degree and you've got 1 year left, it's never really a good idea to abandon your degree and try another pathway into medicine, because that question will always be asked: why didn't you complete your existing degree? When you've got a non-completed educational qualification, there is a question about why it's non-completed, and that can often be something which is not always seen on paper as a positive thing. So if you're 2 years into a program, then the overwhelming advice from most people in my position and a university position is to complete your degree, because that demonstrates that even if you're not particularly happy on your degree, that you've actually got motivation and discipline to complete something that you've started. And that's something which comes across very strongly in interviews. If you're on the first year of a program and you really know it's not the right thing for you, and your A-levels or IB or CBSE curriculum is actually going to be sufficient for SGU, and you can say, listen, I studied this program, but I've got the grades for medicine and my heart is set on medicine, and I want to actually apply myself now after a lot of careful thinking, then that is obviously a different narrative, and that is something which definitely would be looked at. But it wouldn't, your first year of a non-medical degree wouldn't be considered in terms of credit. You would be starting from the program again. Okay, there are more questions coming in now, actually, flooding in. If I have a Bachelor of Public Health degree from Thailand University, how should I join? Every student's application is looked at on an individual basis. So no one's actually, we're not collectivizing students here. If you're sending your documents through your high school diploma from Thailand or IB or whatever curriculum taken at Thailand, then you've done a public health degree, then of course, we will take a look at your degree, your transcript. Obviously, the university accreditation is important as well. And then the university will make an academic judgment about if you are then eligible to enter, say, the four-year program. Is that correct, Bethana?
Yes, Ben, thank you for that. That is correct. And as you recall, Ben, we do have some different pathways into the four-year program.
Yes,
so
definitely.
Sometimes students who don't exactly meet the requirement to join the four-year program may alternatively be offered, for example, our Charter Foundation program, which means that you do an additional term to really bridge the knowledge gap that you may have. But as Ben said, it is an individual assessment. You would apply through Ben, provide them with the documents, and then we will collectively look at everything. And then we would basically, I definitely say still apply for the four-year MD degree, but even if you don't get direct entry into the four-year MD degree, you may be offered a route into the program.
There are also other things which was talked about when I was at the Northumbria campus. For those students whose English is not their first language, or perhaps they've not got an English qualification to the level required for a direct entry, there is actually also a intensive English program, which is extremely useful because it's obviously very specific to the curriculum and to medical English rather than generic English as well, which can actually be an advantage for students because ultimately, you're going to be taught and assessed and expected to communicate with patients in medical English. So that is definitely something which can be useful for those students who perhaps not got an IELTS level required for the program. I think that's more or less everything covered, and we're touching on an hour now, so we've done pretty well there. I want to say thank you. Actually, a good number of questions have come in there as well, and I'm recognizing some of the names here that have signed in, so it'll be great to catch up with you. What I would say for those people that are expecting answers from me today on anything, and we're just very, very busy at the office, we've got exams coming up, and I'm off to a graduation in the Czech Republic later this week, so I'm trying to get everything done in the office this week before I head out. If there are any last minute questions, do feel free to type them in. We have got, for those students that have applied, and we're working through your application, we should have interview invitations for you in the coming weeks. After your A-level exams are finished, we're making sure that we're getting your A-levels done first before those take place. And then for those applications, people want to apply later. If you're applying for the four-year program, there are some very tight deadlines. In fact, there is a deadline today, but we'll see what's manageable depending on your application. And for those that are applying for the 5-year or 6-year pathway, we do have more time if you wish to have a consultation, an individual consultation with myself or with Bethana. I know Bethana's put her details on the chat there, but alternatively, you can book a one-to-one Zoom call with Medical Doorway on our website. For those that are ready to apply, I won't share my screen now, it's not really required, but if you go to medicaldoorway.com, you can find a link from the SGU page of our website or from the general application page there, specific for the SGU campus. Don't worry about ticking a 4 or 5 or 6-year pathway. We assess the application and we then determine with you which is going to be the right pathway before we then go ahead and make the application on your behalf. What I would suggest people do is once we're after paperwork, please do get back to us as soon as you can with the paperwork we need, because a lot of the time delays happen because paperwork is not complete, and that's something which it's not Bethesda who's looking at the applications, it's an academic committee. So we're kind of like the kind of the firewall before we get there, but we can't pass everything on until we've got your full set of paperwork anyway. So as there are no more questions, I want to say thank you to Bethesda. We'll hopefully have another webinar closer to A-level results with Dr. Coey if he can make it next time. Hopefully things are going to be better for him there, and he'll be able to come along. Do keep an eye on the Medical Doorway website. If you want to look at this webinar again, it's on the YouTube channel. That was one we did earlier in the year. I did do a small article about our visit to the Northumbria campus and to the Grenada campus, which happened back, I think, in April now, wasn't it? Yeah, so I did put a little story on there. Do check that out on the Medical Doorway website. But I want to say thank you to Bethesda. Thank you to everyone who joined us on Zoom and on Facebook and on YouTube. Have a great day. For those that have managed to kind of steal this bit of time in between A-level exams, best of luck. It's the last week of A-levels. For those that are waiting on IB results, they come out, I think, 4th or 5th of July. Good luck, and do get in contact with us when they come out in, say, 2 to 3 weeks' time. But apart from that, thank you. Have a great day, everyone. It's sunny in England now, but I'm stuck in the office and I will be for most of the day. But thank you so much, and take care and stay safe.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you,
Bye
everyone.
now.
Thank you.